Hello everybody and welcome into Command Point. My name's Ryan and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to play the new edition of Kill Team. After selecting your kill teams for the battle, determine the kill zone and set up the terrain features. In this example today I've set up Map 1 from Kill Zone Vulcus. After that, you're going to want to determine the crit op and to set up your objective markers. Other than kill zone beta decima, all objective markers must be set up on the kill zone floor. The players then roll off, and whoever wins the roll off decides who has initiative. The player with initiative selects one drop zone and their opponent has the other. Moving on to the select operative step, each player secretly selects their operatives for the battle, adhering to the selection requirements in their kill team's rules. They then reveal their selections simultaneously. Each player secretly selects up to 4 equipment options. Each option cannot be selected more than once per player. They then reveal their selection simultaneously. Each player then gains 2 command points, after which each player secretly selects a tac op for one of their kill team's archetypes: infiltration, recon, security, or seek and destroy, as specified in their kill team rules. Step 3, the setup operative step. Each player alternates setting up an item of equipment that's set up before the battle, starting with the player with initiative. Each player then alternates setting up 1/3 of their kill team, rounding up, starting with the player with initiative. When a player sets up an operative, it must be wholly within their drop zone and must be given a conceal order. Next up, we have the scouting step, where each player secretly selects one of the pregame scouting options. Equip, select one additional equipment option. Ploy, during the first strategy phase, you can use a strategy ploy for 0 CP. And reposition, perform a free reposition action with one friendly operative that's wholly within your drop zone. It must finish that action wholly within 3 inches of your drop zone. The players reveal their selection simultaneously, and the player with initiative resolves their selection first. Finally, after all that setup, we reach the play the battle step. So in the first turning point, initiative is decided by the player who won the scouting step. If it's a tie, the player who didn't have initiative during setup decides. As a strategic gambit in the first turning point, each player will secretly select one of their 3 ops, crit, kill, or attack, to be their primary op. They should place a card with their selection face down, conceal a dice showing their selection under a cup, etc. as appropriate. A battle consists of multiple turning points, and each turning point includes a strategy phase and a firefight phase. They must be completed in order and in full, at which point the turning point ends and the next begins. Repeat this process until the battle ends as specified by your mission pack. For example, in the Approved Ops Card Pack 2024, which comes in the new Kill Team Starter set, there are 4 turning points. In the first turning point, the player with initiative is determined by the game sequence of your mission pack. In subsequent turning points, the players roll off and the winner decides who has initiative. However, if the roll-off is a tie, the player who didn't have initiative in the previous turning point decides who has initiative. This takes precedence over roll-offs and ties. Step 2 of the strategy phase is ready. Each player gains 1 command point, and in each turning point after the first, the player who doesn't have initiative gains 2 command points instead. Players keep command points until spent. Finally, each player readies all friendly operatives. This third step of the strategy phase is Gambit. Starting with the player who has initiative, each player alternates either using a strategic gambit or passing. The players repeat this process until they have both passed in succession. Strategy ploys are the most common strategic gambit, but any rule-labeled strategic gambit can be used. You cannot use each strategic gambit more than once per turning point. After the strategy phase comes the firefight phase. The player who has initiative activates a ready friendly operative. Once that activation ends, their opponent activates one of their ready friendly operatives. The players repeat this process, alternating activations until all of one player's operatives are expended, in which case they can counteract between their opponent's remaining activations. Once all operatives are expended, the firefight phase ends. When a friendly operative is activated, you first determine its order. Select the operative's order, engage or conceal. It has that order until it's next activated. When it's engaged, the operative can perform actions as normal and can counteract. When it's on conceal, the operative cannot perform shoot and charge actions, and it cannot counteract. However, it's not a valid target while in cover. Step 2 is perform actions. The operative performs actions. While an operative is doing so, it's known as the active operative. Each action an operative performs costs action points, and you cannot spend more AP during an operative's activation than its action point limit, or APL. In addition, an operative cannot perform the same action more than once during its activation. This is known as action restrictions. Some rare rules will change the cost of actions. Regardless of how many AP changes an action is affected by, the minimum is always 0 AP. This takes precedence over all AP changes. You don't need to declare all your operative's actions when it's activated. Instead, your operative can perform an action, and then you can decide the next action after seeing its effects. If an action is declared or begun but it's not possible, the action is canceled. Revert back to the game state before that action. For example, if an operative has moved but cannot complete its move, return the operative to where it was before it moved. It hasn't performed that action, and you haven't spent AP on it. Step 3 is expended. When you've finished your operative's activation, that operative is expended. While expended, an operative is not ready. Counteract is when you would activate a ready friendly operative. If all your operatives are expended but your opponent still has ready operatives, you can select a expended friendly operative with an engage order to perform a 1 AP action for free. Each operative can only counteract once per turning point and cannot move more than 2 inches while counteracting. This is not a change to its move stat and takes precedence over all other rules. Counteracting is optional, so you can choose not to. In either case, activation alternates back to your opponents afterwards. Having operatives perform actions is how you play Kill Team. The amount of actions that an operative is able to perform is determined by the APL characteristic included on each operative's datasheet card. Let's start with reposition. With a reposition action, you move the active operative up to its move stat to a location it can be placed. This must be done in 1 or more straight line increments, and increments are always rounded up to the nearest inch. It cannot move within control range of an enemy operative unless 1 or more other friendly operatives are already within control range of that enemy operative, in which case it can move within control range but cannot finish the move there. Here's an example of an operative repositioning while also climbing. In order to climb this terrain feature, the operative will have to move vertically 4 inches and move horizontally 2 inches in order to clear the wall, in order to place itself on top of this terrain feature, meaning it moved a total of 6 inches during this reposition action. Here's an example of performing a drop while repositioning. The operative is more than an inch. It's going to take 2 inches for the operative to clear the wall. And when you drop, you ignore the first 2 inches of vertical movement. So in total, the operative will move 4 inches in order to get behind the wall on the kill zone floor. And with the remaining 2 inches, it'll put itself to the right. Here we have an example of a dash. So here we have an operative who is going to climb over this wall here. And then to get 3 more inches of movement, it's going to perform a dash. A dash action is a reposition action, but note that you cannot climb while performing a dash. Here we have a Vespid performing a mission action where it's going to first reposition itself within control range of the objective marker, and then it is going to use its remaining APL to secure that objective. Alright, so here we're going to have an example of a shooting attack. So in order to first perform a shoot action, your activated model needs to, of course, first select a target. As you can see, there are 3 enemy Vespids visible to this Tempestus Aquilon. 2 of them are situated behind heavy cover with conceal orders, making them ineligible. And normally, the 3rd behind the light barricade there would also be ineligible because it also has a conceal order. But because our Tempestus Aquilon is placed on a vantage point, he ignores that. So the Tempestus Aquilon has 4 attacks hitting on 3s. We've rolled a 6 and a 3, so a critical hit and a hit against this target. The Vespid auto-retains 1 cover save due to it being behind light cover. And then it'll roll its 2 remaining defense dice. Neither of them are 5-ups, so it'll fail both of those saves. We only block the 1 normal hit, and we're going to take the crit damage here, which is going to be 4 points of damage onto the Vespid. Next up, we're going to have one of the Vespid Stingwings take a retaliatory shot into that Tempestus Aquilon who just shot his buddy. So he's first going to switch his order from conceal to engage. And this Tempestus Aquilon is not in cover, so no auto-retaining cover saves for him. Vespid has only managed to score 1 critical hit, and the Aquilon manages only to score 1 regular save. So 1 crit is going to go through and deal 3 damage to the Tempestus Aquilon, and because this is a weapon with Devastating 2, it's going to take 2 more damage for a total of 5. Here we have a Aquilon Gunner with a Melta Carbine. He is within 2 inches of this Vespid Stingwing. Now, while the Vespid Stingwing does have Conceal and is behind cover, because the target is within 2 inches of the attacking model, he is unable to benefit from cover and is a valid target. The Tempestus Aquilon manages to score a crit and a hit, and because of its Devastating 4, as well as its Piercing 2, even if the Vespid is able to get a critical success on its defense dice, it's not going to be enough to save it with its remaining wounds. For our next action, we have Charge. So here we're going to have the Aquilon Sergeant or the Aquilon Leader, whatever you call it, charge another one of these Vespid Warriors. In order to make a charge move, it basically works the same as a reposition action, except that you can go inside of enemy models' control ranges, as long as it is the target of that charge, and you move your movement characteristic plus 2 inches whenever you make a charge move. And from there, we are going to enter the fight phase. So both players roll their attack dice simultaneously when fighting. So the Tempester here has managed to score a crit and a normal hit and 2 misses. So the 2 misses are discarded. We'll set those 2 dice aside for him to show his hits. Here we have the Vespid Warrior who gets a great roll, gets a 6, a 5, and a 5. So that's a crit and 2 normals. This is a tough spot for the Tempester, who here is going to opt to try and preserve as many wounds as possible. So he's going to block the Vespid's crit with his own crit. He gets to strike first because he is the fighting model in this instance. Now it's the Vespid's turn to act, so he is going to inflict 3 points of damage onto the Tempester, bring it down to 6 wounds remaining. And finally, the Tempester will block that remaining success, and that will be the end of the combat. And for good measure here, I'm going to show you an example of the pickup action. So as you can see, the Vespid Stingwing is within control range of that token there, and the Tempester Aquilon is not, and the Stingwing is also outside control range of the Tempestus Aquilon, thus he can spend a point of APL to pick up that objective token. And with that, guys, that's going to be our How to Play Kill Team 3rd Edition video. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments section below. That way we can get back to you. Lastly, guys, make sure to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any of our upcoming future Kill Team content. We have a lot of it rolling out today as well as in the upcoming weeks. So very excited to be bringing that out. Don't miss out on it. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all again in the next one.